Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spiritual Leadership Podcast. My name is Alana Kaivalia, and I am so excited to bring to you a very special guest today, who I have to tell you has been a very dear friend for 100 million years. I could not love her more. But not only is she a very good friend, she's also an incredibly accomplished creative director, brand strategist, and somatic stylist for personal brands. I've had the good fortune of having her expertise come my way over the years as well. This is Carrie Montgomery, and you can find everything you need to know about her at carriemontgomery.com. She's been doing the work of somatic styling for nearly a decade, but she's developed this work over a lifetime. And this woman has such an extraordinary background and experience, not just in terms of internet marketing and spirituality and true healing work. She's been through so much. I value her entire story, and I value her as a person. And I'm very excited that she's going to be sharing what she knows with you on the podcast today. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. You're going to make me cry. Thank you for having me.
Right here on the podcast, we like all of the feelings. And
let all the emotions out.
Exactly. That's kind of gets to the heart of what you do with somatic styling. And what I'd love for you to do, first of all, is to really define for the audience listening what somatic styling is, because I think even when you started doing this work, I was confused about it. You know, I come from a place of like, first of all, I didn't know what style was. Boy, oh boy, you remember those days, don't you, Carrie?
Yes, I do.
What is Alana wearing those days? But the way you find it really illuminated the importance of, well, I'll let you talk about it. Tell us what somatic styling is.
So somatic styling is really a way for a woman to step into her body and to get dressed in alignment, not only with who she is, but like what she has to accomplish during that day. And women are taught to look a certain way, to feel a certain way, to fit in, to, you know, they're not good enough if they don't have all the XYZs done. And this really helps someone, like, I'm going to say, regulate their energy and their nervous system so that when they do put on clothes, they're looking through a lens of what does my body need to feel supported today, to release the energy today. Or like if you're like pent up and anxious or, you know, aggro, it's like, this is how we will release, like with a long flowing dress and some combat boots or moto boots and like a leather jacket. And like, I got a little edge going on today. So it's really the embodiment of who you are, how you feel, and what you need to get done for the day.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I can tell you from working with you in my own personal experience, there was a long time where I really was wearing what I thought I should wear. And I would even let other people impose their own style upon me because I just really felt like I didn't have a sense of style, or I didn't really understand what might look good on me. And you really taught me that it's actually not about any of that. It's what makes you feel good. I remember you explaining, I think there was like, I had like a meeting or something. And you were like, well, what's going to make you feel most powerful in this meeting? And thinking about clothing in that way, that what you put on your body, what you wear can actually enhance what's happening on the inside of you, was completely revolutionary. And I promise you, I dress that way every day now.
Yeah, you really, like, when we got through that little hurdle, you're so invested in your clothing. You started buying really cool shit. It's like, yeah, I love this.
For our audience, people, I really had an issue, and I used to wear some pretty strange.
What were those shoes you used to wear?
Oh my gosh, I know. What were those shoes I used
Those ergo something cloggy.
Thrown up in my closet, and were like jersey flowy knits, which are great if that's what you need, but
we loved you anyways. It didn't matter what you were wearing.
It is, but I actually feel so much more confident as a result of work, and it helps me represent myself better. But I mean that for all of the people that you work with, like, you help them represent themselves better. So you actually work with people who have personal brands, like I do, Alana K.
Yeah.
And who put that image out into the world. I remember, I'm sure you know the quote or the phrase much better than I do, but you need to dress for the way that you want the world to see you, and not to please the world, but so that you really display an authentic sense of who you are to the world. And I mean, anybody who has a personal brand or who is building a personal brand definitely needs to do that. So how do you work with, and I know you work specifically with women, how do you work with women to help them kind of figure out who they are style wise?
Yeah. So it's so interesting. Like any savvy marketer is going to be curated, right? So they really like take an idea of who they want to be and they look at like, who does that person, what does she have to do to get to that person or to be that person, and what does she look like? And so if you go into like the imagination process, like when I start working with my clients, we're diving into that journey, and I do this one-to-one and I do it in group, and so it's accessible to all people. But we're diving into your imagination of who you actually want to be, but in the storage of your body, your system. And what I think when I first started this technique, I didn't really understand the power of the nervous system, and the work that I've done the past 4 years with the nervous system coming out of some pretty crazy stuff has allowed me to really contextualize the experience of a woman in her body and what has also impacted them. So I used to think of this as like very amorphous and spiritual. And now I'm like, oh no, you're responding to the beliefs of the beliefs and experiences of your ancestors and the collective and your individual experience. And so when you start to look at how many layers are impacting how you see yourself in the mirror, how you put clothes on your body every day, how you feel about yourself, all the stories in your mind. So I created a body mapping system to start to look at your energy, at your emotions, and then how those stories lay into your body. And then we start to regulate the nervous system to deprogram the stuff that is actually, if you were to think of like 30 pieces of glass in front of you when you're looking in the mirror, and you can't really see like who you truly are. So I help women see who they truly are. And I take the superficial out of style and I contextualize it as an embodiment journey for people or for women.
I think that's beautiful. I mean, look, for better or for worse, we have to be clothed every day.
We do. It is illegal to walk around naked.
For the most part, yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
fun. And I think it was a real shift for me because you mentioned all of those different layers as pieces of glass. And the one thing that I know that, look, I know that all women have stuff around
Yeah.
their bodies. They all do. You can't
Everyone does.
live in
Yeah.
this culture without that. And there's such a strong cultural imposition of how we should look, what we should wear, what we should look at in. And I remember, I struggled with my weight for many, many years. And the idea that I should be thinner or that I should have a different body shape or that I should be able to wear flowers and frills and ruffles or that I should shop at a certain store or that I should wear certain colors, those were all really heavy weights. And
Yes.
I don't want them to be trivialized. Like you literally have to put on clothes and go outside every day. And every day you are saddled with how you should look or what you think you should
Yeah.
be wearing. And that does dysregulate nervous systems because if you don't feel
100%.
if you don't feel comfortable in your clothing, how do you have the confidence to go forth and kick some serious ass? Because women are
Right.
powerful and we need to.
Yeah, it's like taking off these layers that are filtrating, through your body and saying like, no, I'm free to be me. There is one thing though, to just to create a distinction around how you look and how you feel. There's the emotional feeling, and then there's like a true medical situation. And I think a lot of times in sort of the spirituality world and like metaphysics, that kind of gets colluded a little bit too much. And so sometimes we actually really do have to go do physical things to fix what's going on in our health, to work on that, because like you didn't feel good when you were heavy, and it was hard to look in the mirror because you didn't actually feel well.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna.
have my own, yeah, I have my own chronic pain journey and health journey. And so I have been fairly skinny most of my life. I definitely have had times when I'm puffier and a little bit heavier, but I have never really been very overweight, but I still haven't felt good in my body. But looking in the mirror, it kind of looks normal, but I don't like what I see. And so it's like looking at how we treat ourselves, what our self-care protocol is. I mean, like I have the most pristine self-care because it's a requirement for my own survival.
Yeah.
I think it is for a lot of people now too.
Well, you definitely are in my world amongst my friends and the people that I know at the pinnacle of prioritizing your self-care. And it's something that I've
Yeah.
always admired about you. And I think that it extends to the work that you do and the way that you help people with this, because I remember some of the things that you said to me when we were going through this process with me. I never even thought about them. Like, how do you want to feel today, Alana? I remember you saying that
Mm.
to me, and I was like, what? Like, nobody's ever asked me that. And I'm not even sure. We unpack that, and so if you want to feel that way, you might try this kind of fabric or this kind of,
Yeah.
this kind of clothing. And
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. And I appreciate you making that distinction that, first and foremost, all of the people listening, we want you healthy. We want you healthy.
100%. Yeah.
So
It doesn't matter size or shape, like healthy is the most important thing.
body's healthy, no matter what shape it's in, you're automatically going to have like a little empowerment boost, I think.
Mhm.
So the health
Totally.
is first
Totally.
and foremost. And in the meantime, maybe we can at least
Have
make
some fun getting dressed.
yeah.
Yeah. So just like to build some context around like, how do you want to feel today? We have the internal world and then we have the external world. And the external thing is our manifestation, how we've been programmed to think and feel. And we see cars drive down the road and we know that's a car. We look at a sweater, we know it's a sweater. So we've had all these things identified. So when you start to have a kinetic experience with the clothing that you're putting on, it is actually sending communication to your body. And for me, quality of clothing is pretty important because the quality of fabric, I want my skin to be able to breathe. Polyesters really feel uncomfortable for me. Even like spandex, I have a really hard time with that at times. But if you think of the texture of a piece of fabric on your skin, how does that make you feel? Do you cringe? Are you trying to force yourself into something? Do you need it to be more stretchy or oversized and relaxed? There's all these things that you can think of. You might need to have high-waisted pants to kind of support your midsection and make you feel more pulled together. I love my big girl panties, my commando really just they pull me up and but I might wear a really flowy dress over top, but I feel safe and secure underneath, right? Or I'll wear a sexy bodysuit underneath the dress because I'm well, the dress has kind of got me in flow, but the bodysuit really pulls me together and lifts me up.
Yeah, gives me some support.
Yeah. Or I need to wear heels sometimes. I want to feel lifted and elevated.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea that you can enhance and kind of almost nurture yourself with what you're
Yeah.
wearing. And again,
Yeah.
we all have to get into clothing and we all have to go out every day. So why not let it be a supportive experience? And the
Yeah.
idea of I love feeling powerful in my leather boots. That's
Yeah.
always a pretty big go-to for me.
My Fiorentini and Baker moto boots. I love them.
And you're right,
Yeah.
me too, about the fabrics. The natural fabrics are hugely, they feel more in alignment with the work that I do, the person that I am.
Yeah.
I like to breathe. I'm a yoga
Yeah.
teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Letting it breathe as well is really nice. And
Yeah.
had an interesting experience recently that made me think about you and the work that you do and trying to find a decently fancy dress for an evening
Mm,
out. And they
yeah.
are just all not
Fun right now.
they're not fun, but they're all man-made fabrics.
Yeah, I
All
know.
very impositional is the way that I was
Yeah.
thinking of it. They're imposing
Yeah.
their structure and themselves on my body, and that's not how we
Yeah. A rayon or a viscose or a silk will be more helpful, but you often have not have to, but a lot of people like to wear support structure underneath because the fabric is so thin.
right.
So as you age, we tend to have some more wrinkles and bumps and curves that in places that may not look as elasticated as they should be.
Yeah.
But that's part of the aging. We're all going to age. I mean, things start to droop. It happens.
Yes.
So fabric that has a little bit more structure is better when you're aging, but that also means that there is going to be some synthetics in it. It is very difficult.
It's very
Very,
difficult.
and it also like weather takes into account, like how
Yeah,
thick can the fabric be?
right.
I think, for style, I really like once we get through the emotional part and like how people feel about their body and themselves, and we can get into the expression, it's just cut, color, and texture. Like what silhouette are you building? And like that's it. Like
The
that's purely the creative expression of style.
Absolutely. The other thing I think you helped me realize is that almost like, and maybe I'm saying this wrong, but I
Mhm.
remember in trying to figure out what the hell do I wear for most of my life, there
Yeah.
always be a lot of real rules. Like these colors only go together with these colors. If you wear a
Yeah.
belt, you have to wear brown boots. And I
Yeah.
remember you kind of telling me like really anything can go with anything else.
Yeah, I think that's definitely generational. Like people younger than us don't experience that as much because when we didn't grow up with fast fashion. So fast fashion has changed the rules because we have every there like the seasonal cycles aren't as much. People there's everything's so accessible. Everything kind of looks the same all the time. Like there is no like clearly defined generation of like the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. We hit fast fashion in 2000s and it's like what is going I don't have a clear picture of the past 20 plus years at all when it comes to fashion. And it's depressing to me because I
Yeah,
just want to go back to the 60s and 70s because I love the style.
because it's
The
more
fabric was dope.
yeah.
I know. So and I like in high school, like I dressed first, I was like a little bit edgier and like had, the Doc Martens and the dyed hair and all that. And then I went into like more of my 70s, like hippie style. And I was like, a deadhead and all of that stuff. And, I clearly identified with the kinesthetic experience of style, not just how I looked, but how that made me feel.
I
And
wanted
so
to ask you actually, I
yeah,
mean, I remember, and I'm gonna out us here. I remember when I
okay,
met you at the full moon party,
the
Maui
best.
shirt. I mean, if it wasn't love at first sight with those circumstances, I don't know how it could have ever been. But
Wow.
immediately you struck me as fashionable, and you've always been that
Mm.
way. And I remember every time we would get together, I would just look at you and think, God, she's one of those ladies who just seems to look put together and magical, whereas I'm slaving away and I still can't get it right. But when did you translate your, what seems to be at least an innate knack for style and fashion into what is actually a very spiritual healing expression of,
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started my business and I was like being a business and health and lifestyle coach and being like, oh, this is great, so fun. But I was actually very, very, very sick. And I was trying to, and this is how I kind of got into personal branding and all of this. I have a background in film and sales and marketing and PR. And like, I know how to make anything really. I know how to get anything done. And so I was projecting this like image in my business, like I'm this rock star and I'm awesome. And I was in my first launch of the first product I was selling for a group program. And after the first week of sales calls and promo, I ended up almost dying that weekend. And I lost a 20-year fertility battle. And the recovery from that experience of, okay, so let's just go back one step. Do you remember sitting in my apartment in New York City and I was really sick and you were like, Carrie, I think I know what you need to do. I think it's time to just like give up the career pursuit and just like be a mom. Like go be a mom, go find love, like just I never really focused too much on that. I just was like wanted my career. And so I did that. Like I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I moved to Maine to take care of my body and get in alignment with like my values. And then when that experience happened, the only thing I could do was get dressed. Like that was my living prayer every day. And because I had had such a medical journey from 18, and it took me into a spiritual journey and a healing journey, I had been embedded in all of this work for so long. It just felt like the most natural progression for expression. And like, I couldn't contain it, right? And I had a group of women that they were all entrepreneurs. We were doing a mastermind together. I created this because I was like, this online thing is great, but like I need people and I'm new to Maine. And so I literally had these women be like, I need to do a photo shoot. Like, will you style me for the photo shoot? And I was like, yes, totally. And I was still in recovery from the surgery, but I was like, I want to work. I want to do this. And I saw every woman had the same body image issues that I had. And so as I started to see and relate to other women on this level, while creating beautiful images for them, I learned that like, we're all equal in this struggle. And so this work, this body of work of looking at our energy and our emotions and our nervous system and how we see ourselves and creating a new identity from the inside out, and then contextualizing it, like, it was my survival technique to come out of a really tragic experience.
Well, that's powerful, Carrie.
Mm.
Resonant, and I do remember I do remember all of those pieces of that story. So thank you for sharing them here with all of the listeners. I know that people listening are really going to resonate with what you say. And I've been through my own, health issues where some days just the moment where you just said the only thing I could do every day was get dressed. And it's like, that's the piece that saved you. That makes the work that you do so much more profound. It is profound, but that's how you'll connect with people with this work, is like, there's so many women out there where the last thing that they want to do every day is get dressed.
Yeah.
Because it can be a terrifying
I
experience.
kind of get dressed 3 times a day. I'm like, let's do it again. I love that. Let's do it over. I'm going to try this on now. Yeah. And in that journey of like, knowing how to do sales and marketing and all this stuff, I really like started to help women position their businesses and like build out like how they kind of radiate their messaging and like how they bring sort of this radiant experience of their body of work into the world, not just from like how it looks, but how they speak to the world. And I, in the recovery journey of like gaining my nervous system back and having that agency and autonomy that I honestly had never had my entire life, never. Just finding that it opened doors for me to be like, okay, I want to help these women be visible. I want to help them be vocal. I want to create a safe place in their bodies, because the world does not like allow safe space very often. Right. So you have to find it inside yourself. And then it kind of was like, okay, so to be marketable, you have to be vulnerable. And so then it was like, okay, let's find, and then to be like, make money, you have to feel valuable. And I was like, okay, so this is that body of work to like, this is how it ripples out. And it's the most important, like these 2 aspects of my work. It's really nervous system branding and somatic styling, and bringing these 2 together creates a resonance in the field of marketing that I love.
And honestly, for people listening who have their own business or their own personal brand on any level, like Carrie's right. Like, this cannot be overstated. I cannot tell you my business has been entirely online since 2015. So I'm in year 8 at the time of the recording of this podcast. It is uncanny how my business does well as I feel good and do well. Yeah. And my business will suffer if I'm going through any kind of personal stress or not taking care of myself. Yeah. And they can feel completely unrelated. I can have things in my life that have seemingly nothing to do with my business, that are affecting me, affecting my mental health, affecting my ability to take care of myself, engage in self-care. And in the background, my business will also be suffering. So there's an absolute correlation between our, as you say, agency, nervous system regulation, self-confidence, feelings of empowerment, belief in ourselves, the way that we look, the way that we feel, the way that we put ourselves out there, and the success of our business.
Yes, 100%.
So closely
Well,
correlated.
especially if you're a personal brand, it can get very confusing because it is about you. And like, look, I made Ritz-Carlton like $176 million on a sale of a property. But when I came to like selling myself, my products, I could make medical companies millions of dollars, but selling myself, it got really hard. And I have a huge fear around visibility. And I've had to work on that. And like, I've had to really regulate myself to be able to come on and do things like this.
So effectively, with the work that you do, you help women be successful.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
And feel safe being successful, right? Because yeah, that's for, yeah.
What?
So,
Say that again.
so I help women feel safe being successful because if you don't feel safe, you will tear shit down. You will do anything to not make it work because you don't feel safe. And I have spent my whole entire life up until recently in the past few years not feeling safe.
Right.
And I literally had to be like, I don't feel safe and I need to work on this specifically. And then things shifted.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
That is so incredibly right. It is difficult to feel safe.
It is. But the power, like, you know how spirituality is like, oh, go inside and like be reflective. And the power is really inside you. Things like your breath, like your breath. I look at it from so many different angles, but your breath is the most powerful thing, the tool that you have the easiest access to right here and now. Your physical body to be able to move it. Sometimes you can't just stand up and get dancing like wherever you are. um you know, I sometimes just like tap on my body to be like, this is my body, this is my body, I own this body, this is my body, because I'm starting to not disassociate, but I'm starting to work against my system instead of with my system. Like slapping your heels on the floor, you know, those kind of things to like say, come back home, you know, come back to yourself. Everything's right here. You have all the resources inside you. You're just taught that you don't, and you're taught to go elsewhere for them. And that's the crock of shit.
Well, Carrie, I know that people are going to want to work with you further because this is just the tipping point, the little tip of the iceberg of what you have to offer people and what you have to offer women, and being safe, being successful, being in their bodies, being empowered. So I know I mentioned your website at the beginning of our interview, carriemontgomery.com, and you have a group program coming up that everybody should join. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have my somatic styling program is launching in like the next month, and I'm really excited to pull. I used to have a program called Create Your Soul Style, and I've really like sizzled it down to make this a great 4-week intensive for people to get all the tools they need to feel awesome in their body, experience what the freedom of self-expression feels like, and to kind of be like, you know, whatever world, patriarchy, I'm good. I'm good in my skin, like feel really comfortable in my skin.
Yeah.
And then also like if you need an action plan to feel a little bit more comfortable, we'll look at that too.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, I look forward to having our listeners work further with you and go to your website and find out more. And thank you so much for sharing your incredible wisdom insights today. I know
Thank you so much,
I got a
Alana.
lot of it. I always get everything. I always get tons out of talking with you anyway. So thanks for
Oh, I
being.
love you.
I love you too. And
Thank you.
take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye, everybody.